So it's official. The Golden State Warriors' worst nightmare has finally came. And boy, oh boy, is it tough. We all knew that heading into this offseason, the Golden State Warriors, they had some questions that needed to be answered. In particular, the two guards, Chris Paul on an expiring contract, $30 million, trying to juggle that. And then Klay Thompson coming off of the books, looking for a new contract, but couldn't be on the same page with the front office. And it's definitely turned out in the worst case scenario. Just yesterday, the Golden State Warriors opted out to waive Chris Paul as they were not able to find an optimistic suitor for him, especially because the only team out there that was willing to give something in return for CP3 was Zach LaVine with the Chicago Bulls. And due to the new CBA, due to the new rules, due to the new limitations and restrictions and the amount of money they were going to have to pay of being repeat offenders, they did not want to do that. Think about that for a second. They were willing to waive Chris Paul for nothing rather than trying to get something in return up to the tune of Zach LaVine making over $40+ million on a year-to-year basis. Ridiculous, crazy, nuts. Furthermore, talking about Chris Paul just briefly, he would then go on to get waived and then sign with the San Antonio Spurs, bringing some veteran presence that is much needed in a young core out there in San Antonio. Also potentially aiding Victor Wembanyama within the handful of minutes that he's going to be receiving as a lob threat. Hopefully Wemby turns out to be a much better, and I do mean much better player when you place him alongside a player who is willing to pass and play make. But this does mean effectively moment of silence for Chris Paul in his career. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, Chris Paul, shout out to you, brother. It was a great run. You're gonna end ringless. It is what it is. It happens to the best of them. You'll go down as one of the best players in NBA history to not win a championship, but effectively opting in to go to a team, a rebuilding roster, a young core, means that you are looking to play the mentorship role and will probably prepare yourself post your NBA playing career as a head coach potentially for another organization. So that's the Chris Paul news, but the breaking news right now is what you see on your screen. Free agent Klay Thompson plans to join the Dallas Mavericks on a 3-year, $50 million deal with a player option at the end of it, and they're getting the Charlotte Hornets involved alongside moving Josh Green to Charlotte to make sure this deal gets done. Now, as I reported, as of right now, everyone is reporting the details haven't been set in stone yet. The Warriors haven't agreed on any Klay Thompson sign and trade deal to the Dallas Mavericks at this point per sources, but could still happen, but still negotiating and finalizing what still is needed. Now, this is all interesting for several pieces because in terms of what exactly the Warriors get in return, if you do go down this path, it is nothing, especially if Josh Green is going to the Charlotte Hornets. The Warriors are getting literally nothing, maybe a draft pick, maybe a second rounder, who knows? Again, still waiting on the details, but when you look at the Dallas Mavericks in their roster, there's nothing of substance on that team that they can shift over to the Golden State Warriors for them to receive. After moving off of Tim Hardaway Jr.'s contract, they did receive a trade exception, which then opened up the opportunity for them to just outright sign Klay Thompson if necessary in a sign and trade, but there's nothing that they can move off of that wouldn't significantly hurt their chances to go on to win a championship. And this is very, very interesting because that means that potentially the Warriors are doing this deal, if they can get this done, while not receiving anything in return at all. Literally nothing. They're going to receive nothing. So basically, how all of this is going to conclude for the Golden State Warriors is effectively handing over and negotiating deals or not negotiating deals that will yield them zero in return for both Chris Paul and Klay Thompson. I cannot reiterate this again. This is the worst case scenario for the Warriors. Worse. And it's even crazier is that the news that I think really, and I do believe really damaged the relationship between Klay Thompson and the Golden State Warriors was that PG news. When he got wind that they were hell-bent on not giving him multiple years on his deal. When the hang-up was, hey, I want 3 years. They're only willing to give me 2, but then behind my back, you all are negotiating a deal with Paul George to give him 4 years, and reportedly both Steph Curry and Draymond signed off on it. That had to be it. At that point, it's kind of over at that point. So now you're getting nothing for these two players. You're moving in a different direction, and this is by far the worst case scenario for the Golden State Warriors as they are now trying to retool, and it now brings us to a much bigger question, much bigger picture, and that is it time to trade Steph Curry? Is it time to trade Draymond? Is it time to move on a different direction? Because if you look at their roster, what they have on a team, this is not a team that is conducive of making a deep postseason run. This is not a conducive of a team that may not even guarantee the spot in the postseason whatsoever as a playoff team. This is a team that clearly needs to pivot in a different direction in hopes, and I do mean in hopes, to try to get something in return for something, and it may not be nothing. Shout out to the Dallas Mavericks. If this does go through, which it seems like it more than likely will, they made an addition to the roster that is necessary. They got off of DJJ, someone who was limited as a three-point shooter, just stuck in a corner. That's all he can do. Upgraded him to Klay Thompson, much more versatile offensive weapon, not the same defender, but definitely increases their ceiling in terms of what they can do offensively. And also shout out to Klay Thompson. He is on a roster that will further maximize who he is as a player. Not as many off-ball movement sets that will probably be ran for him out in Dallas, and we'll try to figure out what that looks like for him. Still a great catch and shoot player, but something that we're going to be really looking at in terms of his comfortability in a new offense that probably doesn't have that much off-ball movement, but still you are on a team that maximizes who you are as a player and isn't asking you to do a lot on that side of the floor, as you have not just one but two elite level shot creators and some rim protectors as well on the defensive side that you have been lacking out with the Golden State Warriors for the past couple of years. But I'm gonna be honest with y'all, bro, this is sad. I ain't gonna lie, this is sad. This is sad. The Warriors, the dynasty is done, bro. The dynasty is done, the run is over, and we just got done watching the greatest backcourt of all time, in my opinion. And we're now transitioning into a year where the Warriors not only are going to miss out on the greatest backcourt of all time, but they got nothing in return for it, and more than likely will be leaning in a direction to where they're going to have to move off of Steph Curry and Draymond as well. And because after this next season, and they realize that, hey, this is a tough Western Conference and we're not going to be able to compete with the roster that we have at our disposal, I think that it's only a matter of time before the Warriors and Curry get on the same page and say, hey, trade me to a contender. Let me maximize the last year or two that's left in my NBA career. Same thing with Draymond Green. Trade me to somewhere else. And we're probably looking at a full rebuild. This is sad, going out really, really bad. And I do believe the biggest mistake that they made, and I've said this several different times, is not going after actual stars or quality veteran rotation players with those draft picks, because basically at this point, they got nothing for any of those picks. James Wiseman turned out to be a dud, got nothing for him. A young player in Jordan Poole basically played great, gave him a max, didn't really work out because Draymond punched him in the face, and then now you move him for Chris Paul and you got nothing for him as well. So really nothing for Wiseman, nothing for Poole, and now you still have Kuminga, but you still haven't signed him to an extension yet either, which is going to be even more money. But Kuminga on this roster doesn't maximize who he is either. So now because of the team and how there's limited floor spacing, how there's limiting shot creation, how there's limited size inside, Kuminga is now not going to be maximized to who he is as a player, which then kind of questions the justification of even keeping him on this team either, when there are multiple opportunities for you to trade him for, again, more veteran presence that would have maximized the team immediately instead of later on down this hypothetical timeline that never really worked out. Also, allegedly, Klay Thompson was even given more opportunities somewhere else, as another team was willing to give him a 4-year deal with more money, but Klay Thompson still decided to go with the Dallas Mavericks. And again, I just believe it's the best opportunity for him, at least in his mind, not only because he gets to maximize who he is potentially in a team with 2 elite shot creators, but as is being reported by Bleacher Report, he also sees a difference in state income tax. So there's that as well. This sucks, and it's by far the worst case scenario. Worst case scenario for the Golden State Warriors, and it's sad to watch this team go out the way that they did, but it's only a matter of time before we have to move in a different direction with Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, and Draymond, something I was kind of predicting for the past couple of months now. Unfortunately, it came to pass, and it's only a matter of time before Steph and Dre will also be traded to another teams as well, and they move in a different direction and try to blow it up. Now, with that being said, I'm going to end the video here, and I'm about to proceed to crash out on the next video for the Los Angeles Lakers. So check out that video, man. Hey, that video coming up right after this one now. I'm about to crash out right now. Matter of fact, I am live right now on playback.tv. I highly doubt this video is going to come out until then, but I'm about to crash out right now because Rob Pelinka, what are you doing?